Let's just call a spade a spade. Canada is under attack, and that's not unique because Mexico's under attack. Threats of war against Panama and Colombia are happening. Threats of war against Greenland are happening. We're now in a trade war, an official trade war with the United States for no reason, no good reason given. We're here to talk about all that and more. This is Joey Only, Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel. It's the Bad News Show. If you only like my channel for forecasts, that's fine. Feel free to catch the next one. This is not just forecasts, although maybe I do have a little bit of news here and there for you. No, today I want to talk about how bad things really are. I'm going to look at some of the stories from this week that caught my mind and caught my eye. Okay, let's go. There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything can happen.
Get on!
Wow. I'll watch the video later. They dry mopping this. Yeah, you know, the channel is named Joey Only, Caribou Weather Dude. YouTube channel, right? There's only one word in there that is weather. The other four are Joey Only and Caribou Dude. So I will speak as I want to speak. Maybe someday I'll make a brand new channel for the Bad News Show, but until we have enough viewers to watch this particular segment, I don't see any real need for that. So ostriches were facing some avian flu culls down in British Columbia, down here in our own province, and Justice Michael Batista ruled on Friday that the cull order imposed by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency will be stayed until while the farm seeks a judicial review of the case. In a written order that went along with it, the judge said that this would expose the farmer to irreparable harm. So, also a lawyer for Universal Ostrich Farms Incorporated argued in Friday in a Toronto federal court that ostriches should be exempt from this order because their genetics are the subject of an antibody research. That makes them rare and valuable. We don't want to just go killing all our ostriches off. Michael Carter said his clients, farm co-owners Karen Esperson and Dave Belinsky, had happy tears. They love their ostriches. This is in Edgewood. That's about 200 kilometers east of Kelowna. They'll be proceeding with the hearing to look at the CFIA's decision to have the birds culled and whether it's reasonable, Carter said in a phone call after the decision. So, it's been a lot of sleepless nights for them, not knowing if they're looking to see 35 years of 400 animals getting unnecessarily murdered and killed. Ostriches love people. They're very curious. They're interested in people, and they love music. So I'm sure everyone's going to see ostriches all lined up along the road at the fence watching what's going on tomorrow. So CFIA is saying there's a risk of human transition, of illness and death, though in his ruling, Batista said allowing the cull to proceed would mean irreparable harm in the form of the closure of a 25-year-old business and the loss of the applicant's decades-long efforts in cultivating a unique herd of ostriches. The disposal order is stayed until a decision in the judicial review is conducted. So there's a scientist named Dr. Ostrich, Dr. Yasuhiro Tsukamoto. He's the president of Kyoto Prefectural University in Japan. He's been extracting COVID-19 antibodies from ostrich eggs in BC, building on his decades of research in the antibodies in ostrich egg yolk that can block infectious diseases. He says his research could be applied to avian flu. He'd argued that the ostriches' genetics are irreplaceable and they should be treated and researched. They treat ostriches like chickens in a chicken barn. Although court documents show 69 of the 450 ostriches on the farm have died between mid-December and January 15th after showing symptoms of avian influenza. Investigation into James Barnes' disappearance in the Fort St. John area are now going into a fourth month. He was actually this is more related to Chetwynd, I should say. His truck was found, but he and his dog were not with the truck. People thought that they'd found his dog, but RCMP confirmed in a news release that DNA testing determined the dog was not his. So they continue to seek witnesses who may have seen James's truck or Murphy, the dog, on October 18th, the day he was last seen in the Ground Birch area on Road 269 and the Ground Birch Forest Service Road. He's 28 years old, 5'11", 201 pounds. Last seen wearing green, blue TC Energy ball cap, a green or blue hoodie, jeans. Murphy's described as an 18-year-old male golden retriever with no collar, a very old dog. Alberta Fish and Wildlife are reporting sights of cougars in the Athabasca area over recent weeks. So they've got some tips there on their Facebook site. Never feed any kind of wildlife. What's happening is, although it's not unlawful to feed deer, what that means is they get together, they start to congregate, and that becomes an easy hunting ground for cougars. So if you don't want to have cougars around, maybe don't try to attract the deer. Never feed wildlife. Feeding or leaving fallen bird seed or salt licks that attracts wildlife, such as deer, to your property will in turn attract cougars and other predators. Urban deer that get food from unnatural sources, such as your yard, tend to become slower and more docile, making them easy prey for cougars. Avoid attracting small animals to your yard. Keep your garbage in a container that's tightly fitted with a lid. Keep the perimeter around your house clear of thick or tall vegetation so that you can see other animals around and other animals can't hide out so much. Keep the perimeter of your house clear, right? And close off open spaces under the decks or patios, areas that animals could hide. Encourage your family and neighbors to take the same preventative measures. If you ever see C-Bus memes there on Facebook, brilliant site. Metro Vancouver Auto Body Shops this next week. Yeah, just rolling in the money, man, like gangsters counting their money. There'll be so many dents, and they're laughing. Gonna be a good time. So here's where I'm at right now. I can't just talk about the clouds when I'm looking at democracy being under attack, our country being under attack, the future having this major risk of climate catastrophe. We have the rise of the super rich trying to literally seize the means of power for themselves. And look back to the Roman Empire. When did Rome stop being a republic and start being this brutal empire? Well, it's when the Senate failed. It's when the republic itself crashed from within, right? So this attack on democracy from within, you have to see it for the ugliest, for the threat it really is, right? And, this week we had the announcement of Guantanamo Bay to be a concentration camp for immigrants they plan to deport. Right? It's like, well, no country will take them back. They don't have a country, maybe. Well, we'll just put them in this concentration camp. There are 11 million undocumented people in the United States. That's about how many were killed in the Holocaust, right? All total, not just Jews, but also gay people, handicapped people, intellectuals, socialists, people who stood against Hitler were outspoken critics. You look at all the Slavs, people of color. You look at all the categories of who got killed by the Nazis. You're looking in concentration camps. You're looking at about a total of 11 million altogether, right? And so I know we always say, remember of course, the Holocaust for the Jews, they were the most significant and largest segment of that, but that wasn't just against them. We have to see things like the building of concentration camps as a fundamental attack on morality, on decency, on humans, the human right to exist on this planet free of harassment and persecution, free of detainment, free of torture, free of punishment. This is all days after Elon Musk went to the new German Nazi party, where he spoke at a rally. And this is a real deal. These are the proto-fascist organization of Germany now. And he was there telling them all that we just need to forget about the past now. So while we're building concentration camps, we should also forget about the past here. And Germans just need to forget about the past. He says, the sins of your fathers are not your fault. So now you are free to go and repeat them. You are free. Basically what he's saying is they weren't sins at all in Musk's mind. Meanwhile, raids have been happening across the USA. There's been these ICE immigration citizenship raids. Some of them which have members of Trump's own administration trying to look cool and sexy, wearing bulletproof vests and getting in. We have stories like a Texas teacher who called ICE in to have students deported and then immediately regretted it afterwards, because it's a horrible, awful thing to have a military-style unit come into your classroom and start taking children down and removing them from their home, their life, from peace and security, and throwing them into chaos. You are literally ruining people's lives. And what's going on, too, do is there's been this long push for a long time to tell you, they want to convince you that the real problem is that there's transgendered people out there, there's black people, it's DEI, it's the gays, it's the they want everyone to be mad at each other, fighting each other, hating each other. They want you and me to not be united on things so that they can continue to get away with their seizing of power, their consolidation of power at the highest level. And what I'm trying to suggest to you Canadians here today is whether or not you politically agree with me on everything, you don't have to. This is just an ideas show. This is me sharing how I feel, sitting here in my mountain place where I don't have much control over the greater world outside of my own little borders of wells, except for when there's a fire going on or where there's weather to report on. There's not much effect that I have in the world on a day-to-day basis. So, to be able to speak out is like a matter of mental health for me. It makes me feel better to talk about these things. Talk about things like how the Americans canceled all health care for all transgendered youth this week. Wow. So people who aren't loyal to Trump are being purged from their jobs. These jobs range from TV meteorologists. One meteorologist who on their own Twitter account said they criticized Elon Musk's. It wasn't even Trump they criticized. They criticized the Sieg Heil that Elon Musk gave, and this TV meteorologist for CBS ended up getting fired. It goes to inspector generals in the United States. It goes to a wide variety of people in the FAA. There's a chronic understaffing. The head of the FAA was fired, and then suddenly you have 2 aircraft crashes happening in a matter of days after this, right? So the system is being gutted and designed to fail. The money is being ripped out and it's being sent to Elon Musk types, the cronies, to the oligarchs. That's the idea, is to seize the wealth and blame it on DEI, blame it on transgendered youth, blame it on anyone to, keep your heads turned, to keep us fighting, to keep us hating each other, to keep the rich winning. The reason given for national funding chaos this week was to root DEI out, to root minorities and leftist groups out. This is like something you find in all fascist states, right? You're professional. You're doing your job as a professional. Your politics aren't supposed to matter. That's always been kind of the sacred thing. It is here in Canada. It's like, well, it's really frowned upon if you're a government employee of any kind saying anything political whatsoever. It's like, well, you work for us, and that's the case. Like, I'm a contract firefighter, so I'm not directly a direct employee of BC Wildfire Service when fire season comes along. However, when I am, I tend to scale back the rhetoric and things I say. I try not to be controversial. I try to be more balanced, just as a matter of principle, and less divisive, because at this point I'm doing a job that's for the better of everybody. I'm a professional, and that's the way it should be. And professionals should be professionals. Trying to make everything about politics is a deadly game that authoritarian regimes like to use. So minorities are being blamed for the aircraft crash in Washington and probably Philadelphia too. I don't know. But lies are so numerous, you can't keep up. You can't keep up with all the lies. You can't keep up with everything that is being said all the time. You can't keep up. No one can keep up with it right now. And that's the terrifying thing. Okay, we'll come back to all that in a minute. Fresh news there. Somewhere near the Othello tunnels on Coquihalla Highway, we have this truck accident right now. Maybe it's cleared up by now. I'm not exactly sure. But this just gives you kind of a look at what the conditions down south there are while it continues to clear up here and get sunnier and nicer and nicer. Okay, let's get back to the bad news. So our national security is at risk here in Canada. Our economy is at risk. Our sovereignty is at risk, and you have people like Danielle Smith from Alberta, and it's like, I'm not trying to make this partisan because I don't specifically support any one party in Canada. I never have. And you can look at even my own friendships, my family. My stepdad was best friends with former Conservative Member of Parliament Daryl Cramp. I'm friends with Sheldon Clare, the MLA here, who's from the Conservative Party. I don't like his party necessarily. Well, I don't like his leader, John Rustad, at all. But I think Sheldon's a pretty nice guy. And, as a community member, he cares. And I like him, right? So it's like, I'm not here to tell you that you should be a part of this party or that party. No, I think you should look at everything individually, each circumstance individually, and try to have a certain, this is what I accept and this is what I think is right, and that's what I'm shooting for regardless of who's in power, right? So there's an example. The UCP eliminated the child care subsidy today. This means low-income families will now pay $300 more per month than they were before in Alberta. Once again, the UCP is raising costs on mums and dads. But call a spade a spade. We're under attack right now, and you have women like Danielle Smith down there muddying the water. You have people like Pierre Poilievre muddying the water. Now, I'm not a fan of Doug Ford necessarily, but at least, like all the other premiers in the country, he's trying to give some kind of a unified message. People want to hear this. Canadians want to hear that our leaders aren't just going to bow down, kowtow to these people, just to give territory to them, give our goods to them. We want there to be a consequence for threatening us, right? We don't want Danielle to be like, and hey, if we have to suffer a little bit as a country to maintain our dignity and our sovereignty, that's what we need to do. We went through the Second World War. We went through the First World War. We went through building a nation in a place that was a very hostile land in a lot of ways. And I don't just mean hostile because, we came and stole it from First Nations people. I mean, a hostile place in general to try to build a society, and before that, the First Nations people were here living in a land that was often quite hostile, like it is in many parts of Canada this weekend, right? We have it bad enough. We need to be together. We need to support each other. We need to be unified as we are, as people who live in the North, and support each other. Make sure that everyone has what they need to get through the winter. Make sure that people have the care they need, the health care they need, the child care they need. Make sure that we aren't just giving all our money away to the ultra rich in the form of tax breaks that don't benefit me and don't benefit you. Those costs get offloaded to us. That's what happens, and suddenly you're paying $300 more a month in child care. And you said, well, she said she was going to cut taxes. Yeah, and what happened was the taxes were cut, but you don't belong in the income bracket where those tax cuts made any significant difference to your life whatsoever, but that $300 now a month more you have to pay certainly does. But it's like, I'm tired of being told I'm brainwashed by people who follow everything. You think you're an alpha and you're a beta. You're a beta. It's like, yes, sir, what should I do? Oh, good, he's going to make tariffs. Yay. Oh, good, he's going to attack the gay people. Yay. Really, it's just like this big blender of belief systems where you're at the bottom. Am I brainwashed? Like, I don't follow any particular political party. I don't have a specific political stance I'm trying to promote. I don't belong to any organizations. I'm a free thinker. And a free thinker like me says, I don't care if people are different than me, because people are always going to be different than me. Not just politically. I've always accepted that Canadians don't all think the same way I do. They're not supposed to. You're supposed to have your thoughts. We're supposed to have our own opinions. We're supposed to come together as a society and try to find out what works the best to making sure everyone's needs are met in a way that everyone can more or less stomach and put up with, and tolerate. These are very simple things. And it's like, if you say to me, well, what are they making the kids gay in school? I'm like, well, no, they're not. There's no evidence in that. There's laws about sexual conduct that apply to me, apply to you, apply to them, apply to the LGBTQ community. We're all subject to the same rules. That's the way it should be. No one's making your kids gay at school. Who told you that? Why do you believe that? Do you actually believe that? Or do you just want to have a talking point to say? Because it's hard to argue against that, because people are going to go, oh my God, they're making the kids gay in school. And if you argue against it, they're going to say, oh, what are you, some kind of a predator? This is bullshit, people. Accept the fact that we're different. We're politically different. We're socially different. We come from different backgrounds. We have different belief systems, different religions, different colors, different communities, different even from one side of Canada to the other. We have different climate zones we live in that make us different people that have different interests, different things slightly from region to region. You have to even amongst the if there's like a homogenous baseline for Canadian society, that changes as you go from province to province to province. It's like there is no perfect Canadian. We are a multicultural melting pot of humans that are trying to build a new society here, and that story is being lost. Well, we need to refine that story and rediscover it and get together for our own safety's sake, for the safety's sake of our nation, for our economy, for our territory, and for the fact that this crazy thing going on down there, this like more or less a fascist coup being conducted by the ultra rich in the United States. Like, you look at the wealth of the 10 biggest corporations in the United States, they half of them dwarf the GDP of Canada. Okay, you look at that's what they're worth. These are economic organizations now that have more power than almost all nations on Earth. Some of them. Tesla, this is a tremendously overvalued company. And, the thing is that it is overvalued. All these American companies are so highly valued, the bubble will collapse, and they know it. And they're trying to seize whatever they can. It's really disgusting what's going on. Am I brainwashed? No. I'm a free thinker who believes in people having the right to live the life they want to live. I don't care if you want to have sex with other adults of a consenting age that are. I don't care if you're an adult now and you decide you want to cut your cock off and grow some tits, and you want me to call you this now instead of that. I don't fucking care. My name is Joey Only. That's not what it says on my birth certificate. That's the identity I got to choose. It was sort of chosen for me, and I said, yeah, I'll keep that. And that's the identity I like. It's who I am. I'm Joey Only. I get to be that. You get to be you. Everyone gets to be who they want to be. Find that creativity, find that love for yourself, find that drive, and decide what you want to be. And be it. And, we don't have to be the same. It's great. It takes a wide variety of viewpoints to get truth, and if you don't believe or agree to everything I say on the show, but you still come and listen, I thank you, because that gives me hope. It doesn't give me hope that you agree with everything I say necessarily. It gives me hope that you're willing to listen. That's, I think, fundamental. Okay, let's keep moving on. So Paul Hacker talking about this economic bubble that I'm talking about right now, where we're having the United States social safety nets being completely gutted out, and they are declaring economic war at the very least now on countries who are their allies. All the countries that they are putting tariffs on are their allies. Taiwan, Canada, Mexico, these are, Denmark, they're allies. They're punishing their allies, right? And it's going to have economic consequences for them. That's going to continue to destabilize their already weak economy as it sits right now. And you have an economy that's propped up by these mega corporations through speculation. It's like we had the tech bubble burst, we had the housing bubble burst in the past, and it's like no one learned anything from it. No one learned anything from the stock market crash in 1929. No one learned anything from the oil market crashes of the 70s. You keep propping up this false economic system that gives to the richest and keeps you divide that wealth further and further and further. Well, where people can absorb mega amounts of wealth, accumulate wealth beyond the measure of anything like we've ever seen before. In each example I just gave, that was the case. And meanwhile, the average life quality for people at the bottom continues to go down. And you have like the top 2%, 1% or less, maybe even top 0.05% actually having legitimate power in the country. So we're looking at this propped up system that and this is an empire that's spread out across the globe, stretched itself thin, and is in grave danger. If they want to start starting wars, they're going to open themselves up to chaos on every front. It's like all of America's enemies are like licking their lips right now for how they can seize territories in their region. How Iran can get away with a war with Israel. That can happen if America is too tied up with its own problems, with its own wars it's creating in the Western Hemisphere. And then they're going to leave their bases susceptible. Would a civilized country limit health care or food assistance for the poor? Would they leave crops rotting in the fields? Would they destroy the educational system, target women, and attempt to eliminate their own reproductive rights while refusing to help resulting babies? You make women have babies, but you won't help them once they have them? And you abuse desperate immigrants, people who have nothing, people who are broken, who have trying to start a new history for their families. So, it's like my Dutch family came to Canada in 1951, and it's like a new history. Holland doesn't exist hardly in my mind. It's very real for my mother, but I've never been there. I'm a Dutchman, sure, I guess. But, I was born in Canada. This is what I am. I don't have a people beyond this, truly. I don't have a language beyond this. This is what I am. This is where I'm born. And, that wasn't the case for my grandparents. They couldn't speak English. They were desperate. They were immigrants coming here after the war who were desperate. These people, they pretend to believe in Christianity, but they pervert and debase its tenets. They have no morality. They're just straight up liars. Straight up liars. They refuse to protect the earth from destruction. They refuse to protect the very first order given to you in the Bible, in Genesis, the very first chapter, Genesis, when it's telling you to take dominion over the earth. It doesn't mean destroy the fucking place. Back to highway news. Nipigon, Ontario yesterday, a light aircraft had to land on the highway. Airplanes are falling out of the sky in America, but ours are just landing on the highway. It's not the first time I've seen that in my life. I remember when I was a kid, something like that happened on Highway 7 there where I grew up, and I remember it was in the Madoc Review or the Community Press or whatever, and I was like, wow, an airplane had to land on the road. So crazy. Facebook's just so terrible. Like the ads, it's so brutal. Like, people actually believe this? You actually believe this guy? You're going to pay this guy to cast spells? To cast spells? Get your ex-love back. What do they mean by get her back? Like, wreck their life? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Wow. His spell is simply that powerful. His spell is so powerful. Pandit Balaji. I don't know. Get back with the ex. Can't you just give me cancer? Is there a spell that will do that? Everything I don't like is woke. So I'm really in favor of this. I don't know if Chrystia Freeland's the first person to say it. I don't know who's agreeing with this right now. I haven't caught up in the last 2 hours on the news. But I really agree with this. We should make it pretty much impossible for Tesla to do business in Canada now. That should be the bottom line. First punch back. You want to fuck with us, Elon? You want to fuck with us, Trump? We're going to hit your billion-dollar cronies right where it hurts the most. We rather than take it out on the American people, we're going to go for the richest of you. So fine, yeah, I'm all for this. 100% tariff, 200% tariff, 200% tariff on Tesla vehicles, on all Elon's companies. We'll get them the hell out of here. Root them out. You want to play a hardball with us? And we'll set a precedent that other countries around the world will look at and say, hey, that's a great idea. Let's run Musk completely out of business. Linda Hassenfratz, who's the executive chairwoman of Canadian automaker Parts Linamar, says this tariff that's being put on Canada could shut down the North American auto production, all production within a week. That's in Canada, in Mexico, and the United States, because nobody can absorb this kind of cost, she says, not the suppliers, the automakers, or the consumers. Demand will collapse. The vehicle production will grind to a halt. Millions of workers will be out of work, the vast majority of which are in the United States. This plan is so stupid, Every aspect of it, there's no reason for it. It's just a bully move to try to make everyone around them scared of them as much as possible, to try to make it as difficult as possible for everyone to conduct negotiations in good faith, to conduct business in good faith. It's a bully move to try to make everyone bow to him, to make everyone bow to this new regime that is unlawful, immoral, and completely committed to bringing us to the brink of collapse. You can't even keep up with how crazy everything is these days. Here's another new one. This is out of Oklahoma. I know there's some debate in the chaser community on this one, but I know what side I'm firmly on, actually. So Oklahoma wants to pass a bill now that you have to have a license to be a storm chaser. Unless you work for the TV media or a university, you cannot get this. Reed Timmer says he's going to fight this for the sake of the storm chaser community, and I think he has to. I think storm chasers do a lot of good. There are some instances where I think storm chasers have been unsafe in how they chase, and there's been times where so many people are chasing that it creates traffic problems and hazards in the wake of an oncoming tornado. Am I in favor of having some legislation that says if there's a particularly dangerous situation, a PDS tornado alert going on, that we expect everyone to clear the area? That's a completely reasonable thing. That PDS is going on, unless you work for TV media or university. But this is shocking to me because right now the United States is like going through this weird media shift where people like Trump are trying to make podcasters the new media. They're trying to use guys like Joe Rogan and they get there on their podcasts and this is their new media. So it's like, well, we're all in favor of non-traditional media until it's the storm chasing community. No, we just want to suck the joy out of anything that's good that's going on. Meanwhile, am I in favor of there being sometimes traffic clampdowns from state authorities? Like, hey, we're conducting, am I in favor also of there being minimum requirements for chasing storms? This isn't about a license. Like, I think anybody should be allowed to chase a storm. But if you're going to be out there chasing a storm, I think that you should be prepared to be a first responder, because you may see a house get destroyed and you're the first person there. And if you're just driving on by to go chase a thunderstorm, well, you're a fucking asshole. And, we need nothing to do with you. If you're out there and you're like, holy cow, there's a tornado's touching down, and you're calling the National Weather Service, or here in Canada, you're calling Environment Canada and saying, I see a tornado on the ground, and they're issuing alerts to warn everybody. And as it's happening, you're chasing the tornado and you're like, oh my God, it's going to hit that farm. It hits that farm. You have to go in, let's go in there and help those people. I know Reed Timmer does this. I know I've seen quite a few of these really good storm chasers stop a chase, just cut their chase off and say, okay, no, now we're rescuers. So I think if you're going to be a storm chaser, you should be willing to be a rescuer as part of the community spirit. I think that storm chasers should, therefore, if you're out chasing, you should have work gear. I don't know how many times, and Reed, I've seen you do this. He's out chasing fucking tornadoes in flip-flops, man. And, come on, you got to go run into someone's house that's just been smashed up and you're in flip-flops. No, so I think that if you're out chasing, it's reasonable to expect you to have good footwear on. It's reasonable to expect that in your vehicle are some basic provisions for safety. I don't know if that means you require people to have a hard hat, but I think the chasing community needs to talk about safety in general, needs to talk about being responders. I think the chasing community needs to within ourselves, clamp down and say that we don't tolerate anymore people putting anybody at risk. You're out in there and you got your cell phone out and you're trying to film and your traffic beep, beep, beep. And I've seen quite a few storm chases where I thought, man, I don't like how the guy drives, dude. What happens is, I know how people are. They get up in the morning like, okay, storm's going to happen in a couple hours. Let's get our coffee. And like, okay, let's start heading to town. Oh, I just got to do this first. Oh, no. And then the other person is like, oh, hey, can I stop here at the store for a minute? And, you'd end up wasting 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 40 minutes there. And then later on in the day, you're 2 minutes behind the storm after you've been fucking around. You're at the gas station there and you already filled your tank up and everything was good to go. And then you stop and said, oh, crap, I didn't go to the bathroom when I was in the gas station. So you turn around, walk all the way back in the gas station, and you burn another 5 minutes off. Later on in the day, you're 2 minutes behind a storm. So you're speeding, you're driving recklessly, trying to catch up with it. Well, next time, make up that 2 minutes. Pick your battleground, storm chasers. Find your target zone that's going to be your chase area for the day. Get into it. Get there ahead of time. Set up and be ready. Those are things we can do safety-wise to just sort of minimize some of this. But in terms of some Republican organizations saying, well, you can't go out and take pictures of thunderstorms anymore without a license, fuck that. This is bad. Storm spotters and chasers do a lot to keep the public informed. There's a lot of the National Weather Service's and Environment Canada's warnings go off because someone reported, because someone's out there actually watching, and we need to encourage that. Well, we also need to encourage it to be a safe practice and to encourage storm chasers to be responders should they need to be. Meanwhile, it's like eggs are too expensive. And then what they do is someone comes and takes a new computer chip and puts it in their brain. And then they say it's hard to keep egg prices down. They just they go from saying one thing to the exact opposite, just like that, right? Meanwhile, Musk wants to put computer chips into people's brains. Like growing up, that was like the mark of the beast. That was like the sign of the end times, and you can tell that the beast is coming because he'll try to mark you with the beast, and they're going to put chips in you and try to control it. Some like, ultra Orwellian fucking world. And then Elon comes along. I'm going to put chips in people's brains. And people are like, yay, they're going to put a chip in my brain. Yay, yay. Oh, vaccine's bad. They might put a chip in you with vaccine. Here's a chip. Yay, how do I turn it on? Click. Yay, I believe whatever Fox tells me. So am I concerned about imposing, this is from one of the newspapers. I think it was the Vernon Morning Star. It's owned by Torstar Group. It's this huge media company, and this is like the level of reporting, It's like I added revolution because it used to say not sure. It's like, yes, no, not sure. Like, what kind of reporting is this? Are you concerned about U.S. imposing tariffs? How come it isn't a headline saying U.S. tariffs spell disaster for Canadian economy? Well, it's like the mega rich that own these media conglomerates. They're still pushing an agenda that's not our agenda necessarily. Keep that in mind, everybody. The USDA is ordered to scrub climate change from its website. So the Department of Agriculture is not even allowed to talk about climate change now. This is extremely Orwellian stuff, folks. It's like if we make it illegal to talk about it, then then it won't happen, right? And the problem is there's a whole lot of programs for farmers and whatnot that fall under the U.S. Department of Agriculture under these climate change programs that are supposed to help farmers who are being affected. Extreme weather events in the past few years and devastated the peach crops in Georgia. They flooded farms in North Carolina. A disease called citrus greening was made worse by climate change, led to sharp declines in Florida's famed citrus crop. Smoke from wildfires in the West ruined fields of grapes, and drought forced ranchers to shrink their cattle herds. The USDA instructions also come as California recovers from wildfires that could amount to the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. Under Joe Biden's Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, the USDA spent $3 billion plus on partnerships for climate-smart commodities, working with private food companies, nonprofits, and universities to research ways for farmers to reduce their carbon footprint, develop more resilient crops, and restore damage to their land. So this is immediately making farming making their agricultural base less safe. They're immediately creating instability into this agricultural base. So his executive order that Trump has made has targeted climate spending in the IRA, forced officials of the USDA to temporarily pause funding disbursements to the program. So they're just doing away with anything positive whatsoever. Now they're talking about defunding NPR and PBS, National Public Radio, and PBS, where a lot of educational programs that are free for the communities, a lot of documentaries, a lot of the up-and-coming people end up producing for these organizations, right? So again, this goes back to, you can see the same thing in Canada, like defund the CBC, and it's just gonna if from bad to worse, there will be many casualties. Panama girds for war as Marco Rubio openly talks about invading Panama. Openly, this is coming, folks. It's coming. Things are going to get much worse than they are already, and that's why you'll keep coming in for the Bad News Show when you can. And I get that not everybody who likes my channel likes when I talk about politics and this and that, but you got to keep in mind that almost exclusively the donor base, people who are paying to keep this channel going, are the ones who want me to keep doing this. So keep that in mind, that it's one thing for 5% of the people to show up to the channel and say, I don't like that you're talking about politics, just keep it to the weather. It's another thing that there's 5% of the people who come here that are literally spending money to keep me going, and I can't thank you enough. People like Anne and Mary Jane and all you people. So that's the two newest this week. But my old friend Catherine Langley sent me a donation I just got as well. So thank you very much, Katie. Love you very much. I've known Katie. She's a big part of NDP movement in Ontario. I am not. Never really was. So I'm probably more radical in some ways, but she's more committed than I am to the struggle. So this episode's for you, Catherine, old friend of mine. Love you, and thanks so much for looking after me once again, like you have so often in my life. Going back to when I was just a young man. Okay, that's the show. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and we will come back again with more bad news. More bad news. It's just everything's so weird these days. So, there was like this debate, like, are the Canucks going to keep Pettersson, or are they going to keep JT Miller? And it's like, I don't know. Like, who are they going to keep? And so then they trade JT Miller, but that wasn't good enough. They went out and got 2 more guys named Pettersson. Now there's 3 guys named Pettersson on the Canucks team. It's like, oh, no, we're definitely keeping Pettersson just to make sure we're going to get fucking 3 of them. Okay. Well, anyways, enjoy the games tonight. I'm looking forward to Edmonton and Toronto. I hope the Oilers just get spanked. Okay. Bye now, everybody.